Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street. Today's video, Hedera hashgraph HBR or HBAR, sorry, on the charts. One of the projects I've been holding for some time. I think I started purchasing HBAR into my portfolio around 2020. We'll go into a bit of a chart detail towards the end of this video. We'll have a quick recap on HBAR as well, and a couple of articles and announcements that have come out in the last 48 hours of great interest for sure, as we see the further development of such a great project. A big, great team behind it and a huge counselling body as well. Talk about it in a bit more detail. Before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying what you're watching and listening to, and hit the opportunity on the channel as well to look at the other videos that we've done in the past. Loads of different projects and topics that we talk about. Let's go straight into this one, guys. So Hedera hashgraph. As I said, for me, it's been one I've held for some time. I guess a bit of background in the portfolio aspect. I purchased back then, had a great run in 2021. I didn't really do anything in terms of trading or selling. I was kind of still accumulating the bags and just being patient for the dips and the drops. And of course, eventually the market does tail off. And I guess the last couple of years, there's been opportunities up and down. It's a bit of a bumpy ride, like with most of the market. But certainly in this last sort of 6 to 9 months, there's been some great, price positions to grab some extra Hedera into the portfolio. So if you are new to HBAR, never heard of it before, you're new to the channel and this is the first time, I do have a load of introductory videos to HBAR. Do go check those out. There's loads of videos out there, of course, like loads of other channels that cover it also. But yeah, from my perspective, I've always been super excited about the abilities, the capabilities of Hedera. I love its real world asset application. I think this is a huge link up for sure now. I think a lot more people are sort of residing to the fact that real world asset kind of related projects are definitely right up there in what we should have in our portfolios, especially for the years to come. And as things are getting more and more adopted, more mass awareness of this technology is improving across the board, not just blockchain, of course, AI, IoT, all these things can really be fully integrated. And HBAR being a really, really strong project out there for sure. So I guess from my aspect as well, you can see I don't know if it's all of them, but certainly some big names here, big companies. A lot of these representatives are actually on the board of Hedera, so you can imagine the integration aspects here moving forward are actually quite phenomenal. IBM is a huge player in blockchain technology. I'm pretty sure they're still involved, if not certainly in the past, the Hyperledger Fabric. A lot of companies like Microsoft and things are on or working alongside that as well. You've got some cooperations with some other really big, interesting blockchain companies. Of course, Chainlink Labs, predominantly for their oracles as well, of course. Swelds is quite interesting part of Hedera. For those that didn't know, I mean, when I was doing quite a bit of work for Paris Blockchain Week, it was absolutely fantastic to be able to interview some representatives from Hedera, including the founders as well. And of course, Swelds, which is a really interesting project that went forward. There's some gaming ones here, energy companies. I think the important thing here, actually, to mention is the diversity in these companies, where they sit. There's banking here, so we're talking about finance, we're talking about energy, gaming, infrastructure, computing, IT aspects. I mean, of course, IBM, Dell don't just do laptops and computers, right? It's all about servers and things like that. So there's so many things going on with that. I think there's like 39. I'm pretty sure it's up to 39 or so global corporations involved with this now. Of course, there's other big names, Google. I need to double check actually. I don't know if I scanned over it yet. I'm pretty sure this isn't all of them. Maybe they've removed some, but I'm sure Boeing and all that were on there. So whether they've been removed as a partner, not a board member anymore, I don't know. I have to look a bit more detail at that. In fact, maybe, just maybe, there might be some more info here. They look like similar names, to be honest. I'm sure there's a few more that pick up. But anyway, in my opinion, this is the real world credibility in my mind. I think enterprises certainly prefer the structure, the accountability aspects of blockchain. And that predictable governance, I think, is super important. And that's something that definitely Hedera provides when it comes to, if you're a customer or you're about to enter the sphere of blockchain, or you're involved in these kind of aspects, smart contracts, etc. You're going to want one of the best companies out there. Tokens aside, crypto aside, super serious here, guys. Like, Hedera is an absolute giant, in the market. And of course, it's not just the traditional blockchain we're talking about here. We're talking about the hash graph. I think many would call it like the DAG protocol. It's always been one of my favorite things to talk about in blockchain. I always called it like maybe a slight evolution of blockchain on top of what we consider as the traditional standards of blockchain. But when we talk about hashgraph, this is such a unique capability to branch out into so many different algorithmic patterns, where we're talking about transactions per second. I've mentioned this so many times on the channel before. Transactions per second aren't just about financial transactions, they're transfers of actions. So when we talk about all the IT, the internet, connected devices we have on Wi-Fi, even the ones still on servers and Ethernets, etc. We're talking about smart homes, just anything and everything that can be connected via a network, whether it be cellular as well, not just, of course, internet. Allowing all of these things to happen simultaneously in multi-millions of transactions, essentially all the time simultaneously, it needs something really powerful. I think it's like with DAG, it's not like the huge amount, but when you compare it to systems that are out there, like existing financial systems, for example, 10,000 plus transactions per second, even that is a huge advantage and evolution from what we've been used to. But you can imagine the capacity of that with algorithmic elements, with the utilization of AI for processing aspects faster, validation with blockchain processing with both. These 10,000, you could sit there and go, oh well, some blockchains do 100,000. Well, a lot of that is also because the networks haven't been drilled into yet. They haven't got a significant amount of projects on there to actually realize what's the finality of those. So in terms of finality, per second the transactions can still occur, but actually processing and validating them can take a few more seconds than just 1 second. So the fees and everything like that are really low. So when you're talking about things like cross-border payments or cross-border smart contracts, I mean, smart contracts are absolutely huge market here. We're talking about credits and debits being done a lot quicker. We're talking about the economy being able to be sped up. This can also relate to things like house deeds, real estate deeds, being done quicker than ever before because we're all validated, all our digital IDs, everything like this that are coming, whether we like it or not, can all contribute towards this mechanism, this evolution. And then, of course, on top of that, I've written it down because I always forget. Even when I was doing my diplomas in blockchain cryptography all those years ago, I could still to this day not say it properly. But obviously a big part of Hedera is its strong security model in its distributed system. That is the asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerance. I think that's about right. Basically, just go on Google and look it up in terms of how it's all spelled and everything. It can be a bit tricky. But yes, of course, that aspect of it is extremely important, especially as you've probably seen, over these short periods of time. We're finally seeing that kind of integration with a lot of these blockchain projects, certainly in the financial sectors, the financial industries, and of course security being a big top priority. Of course it intertwines, but at the end of the day, in general with real world assets, when we're talking about big smart contract applications and things like this, the spectrum of that is absolutely massive. We really need to make sure that there is a solid baseline behind it for sure. And that's what Hedera definitely brings to the table when it comes to the security aspect. And then one other thing really quickly, just before we go into some other elements in terms of the chart analysis and some aspects around the regulations, I'll just pinpoint this actually. Axelar's interchain amplifier. This is a partnership or an integration we've been waiting a while actually for this to actually occur. Well, we can now see that the announcements have come in finally to showcase this integration. So this is actually quite big, or I think it's big anyway. So Hedera has actually activated that cross-chain transfer via Alexa, or Axelar, sorry. So used to the Alexa. So this essentially opens it up to 60 or around 60 other blockchains, which is quite phenomenal. So this not only allows that, there's the whole topic around multi-chain liquidity, which is really big for the market in terms of Hedera's positioning moving forward. You've got the massive, huge bridges now, or even more so through to Ethereum, the Bitrium as well. You've got the opening of Solana, XRPL, and I think even just those, and there's loads more, but just those alone, if you think about the full integration, is where I'm trying to emphasize this point over these next 5-10 years, how important these integrations are. We talked about it in videos way back years ago, but the only way it's really going to work is how all of these work together, interoperability to an extent, but also the bridges are really important. So from a user experience, so whether that's an end user or an institutional user or a team of users, that cleaner experience is massive. And it for sure just expands the generalization of the decentralized finance, or the DeFi, areas that are really important to blockchain moving forward. I think especially when it comes to the digital aspects, as well as the processing mechanisms of HBAR, it's one of those kind of elements of interoperability is, in my opinion, I wouldn't say it's like the next big crypto narrative, because I think it's always been around, but I think where you've got real world assets and interoperability, these are going to be the two intertwined narratives, in my opinion. Maybe not the biggest, but certainly a big part of it, at least, in the next couple of years. So I think Hedera's definitely placed itself right at the center of this kind of ecosystem, and this combination of conversation. I won't leave too many links in the description, but all you have to do really is just jump on the Hedera website, to be honest. I mean, the news is literally from the last couple of days. Hedera users now have another option for moving assets across blockchains. I think there's some of the ones that I've already mentioned. It's quite a powerful move, really. It's quite a powerful integration here. I'm really excited to see how Hedera develops moving forward. Now these kind of applications are available. People are just going to sit there and go, well, the news came out, the market, why isn't Hedera's price point risen? Well, we're in a bear market at the moment for sure. But when we come out the other side, and the mass adoption continues and the mass awareness of crypto continues, the regulations kick in more and more, we have more ETFs. I think if you had positioned yourself with Hedera years ago, even to today, I think this is not financial advice, obviously, but we'll talk about that in the chart in a minute. These existing price points, I think, are so valuable compared to where Hedera could be in the future. And just even in the principle of accumulating as many HBAR tokens as you can is a wise move, in my opinion. Those aside, we've talked about the aspect of the security elements, the compliance aspects, the security in terms of how transparent that is, and that's certainly important for structures moving forward in the financial scenarios. It really is a top project. As I said at the beginning of the video, I'm not going to go into detail in this video about Hedera in general, because I have done so many intro videos, so many update videos on this. I think just the principle was to talk about it in a bit more detail about what we're kind of seeing in these coming years. We'll start off with this from CoinMarketCap before we jump into the trade view charts that I usually do. We're going steady at the moment in time, with the market cap 5.49 billion. Absolutely phenomenal. It's sitting at 21 in the coin market cap listings at this moment in time. In terms of exchanges, as I said, if you're new, well, if you've been there for a while, you probably know where they all are already. But the usual suspects there for where you can pick up HBAR. And yeah, I think the key critical point here, as a recording, by the way, this is just about under 13 cents. It's probably a good point right now to jump really quickly into the TradView chart. If I just get that up on the screen. So, as I was saying, yeah, just under 13 cents this moment. In terms of its performance throughout the year, it's a real shame really for the market, because I think if you clocked back about 6 months ago, a lot of these longer term performance indicators were in really good positive positions, but it just shows you how long this slog of a bear market has really been. We're clawing back to around sort of November, December last year. There were some good high price points of nearly around 40 cents. Not as high as what we saw in 2021. In hindsight, I guess, when I was buying back in 2020, I think it was like March. What was the price around then? Yeah, it was the pandemic. I was bored buying stuff. It's around 3 or 4 cents. So obviously I'm still up in a really good position there or thereabouts at the moment in time. I was DCAing on the way up, DCAing on the way down, buying bits here and there around 23, 24. In this area, yeah, I think it was a pullback about a month ago, I think it was. I think I managed to grab some more around 15, 16 cents on the way down. Obviously, I'm quite happy to see, well, selfishly quite happy to see that we've dipped down into this kind of 12-cent region. And I think what's really critical here is, of course, we're now in this negative barrier here on the long-term fib levels. I'm just going to put another one stuck in here for a second so we can see something a bit more on the medium term. So that's just an extra confirmation of where we are right now. So I've just taken one of the lower points here and one of the recent higher points. So I haven't used the whole chart's worth of range like I've done for the big one that's behind that. In fact, that was one of my original ones I put in, I think, a few years ago. So it's really interesting to see, you fast forward 3 or 4 years, playing out in terms of these market trends. So I've just drawn this one in, taken one of the recent low points and the high points here. I'm not going to manipulate this around too much, but I will, just for the sake of argument, just drop it into here as well. Just get a double confirmation as to where we've had some of that rejection of the support lines around 26. I'm just going to get rid of that one. So we're really playing at the moment. In fact, if I just take probably a good area here because of that red line, it's across the board. Really, you can see support level actually all the way back in 2021 that drove us up, which is really interesting. We've obviously dipped down below that on a couple of occasions, so it could be something that we see a big giant bounce up. We actually get the bull market that we've been eagerly anticipating for a long time. But for now, I'm just going to draw these in, and the reason being is we can start looking in a bit more finer detail as to where we may be going price point wise if we reject this support line. Now, we've already had that leverage drop down that we saw in October. If we fail these lines, we could potentially start retesting some of those lower lines again back towards sub 10 cents. We'll have to see. But some key indicating points here, I'm just going to draw them in. As I said, I've been grabbing some at these current price points, but I'm not too fussed. It depends on where your positions are, or if you're even indeed interested in HBAR. But you can see here there's some critical areas. So I would anticipate just over the 10 cent mark would be another good area to look out for. If some people put their limit orders in like I do, that's certainly where I'm putting mine at the moment. I'm probably going to play it by ear in terms of where I put some more limit orders, because I do have some USDC and USDT waiting in the background. I've put, as I said, some limit orders in at these lower regions, but I'm not going to do too much yet because there's loads of other assets that I've got holdings in, and I need to put some positions in for those as well. So I'm just trying to play the field a bit here. But if we tally back, if I just pull this chart this way, just so we can get a bit of a better accuracy here. So I just pulled it back. So we still got this around about 10-cent mark here. Matching up really, if you look, you see the spikes here. It rejected the ability to go higher than that back here, 2023. Then you see a lot of volatility really around this area over a slightly longer period. But you can see here, it's quite interesting. Couldn't get past it, did get past it, retested at these areas several times between that sort of beginning of January, February in 2024, all the way across here to around about mid-April. It failed it, dropped back down, came back up, and then since then, obviously scaled back, but look at that jump up. That's what I'm really hoping, is that we get almost not necessarily a repeated pattern, but you can see when HBAR gets going, like the rest of the market of course does in some instances, it can really shoot up quick. So if you're purchasing around this sort of 10-12 cents, we get up potentially back to even say 30-40 cents, it's a good 3 or 4 time return. Not as exciting perhaps as we'd love to see back up here around 50-60 cents, but in my mindset, if I was to fast forward maybe 5 years, 10 years time, I wouldn't be surprised if we were towards that dollar mark. So that's the anticipation eventually in the future, but we're still so early with the history of crypto. We're still early with the history of Hedera as well, that we have to kind of have a big open mind about this. It will of course depend on things like the institutional adoption further. It will also depend massively as well on the mass intake from retail investors and others that get excited about Hedera. So there's plenty to be excited about, but we just got to be really cautious at this moment in time how unstable the market is. I can probably guarantee there's a lot of shorts and longs going on at the moment, especially with Bitcoin. This could really facilitate a potential further drop down, especially when you start potentially seeing Bitcoin around 79,000, could drop even lower until we swing back round eventually. The RSIs are confident in the sense of a buying position. 14 days showing 30, 20 days showing 37 respectively. My usual buy points are around between 40 and 42. So when it drops under 40, I'm kind of sitting there going, well, I have no choice here but to be DCAing, but being very cautious that there's still a potential further squeeze to occur. I'll probably do another chart or maybe a live video over the weekend. We'll do some MACD indicators, because this really showcases to you that kind of ability of where we cross the lines over, can give us a really good indication of when we might swing around either way. So we'll keep an eye on that. But in general, guys, that's a bit of a wrap up of Hedera. Apologies, it's a bit shorter than the usual videos, but I'm going to try and keep them a bit more snappy. I'm trying my best to keep them moving quicker, because there's so many things to talk about, especially in the markets like this. Everyone's up in arms about where we're going, what we're doing. But let's keep an eye on it. I'm really interested to see where Hedera goes over these coming days and weeks. Let us know in the comments below what you've been doing with your Hedera, and if you're not even involved with it yet, is it something that's on your radar that you may potentially be adding to your portfolio soon? Always love to hear all kinds of comments around Hedera anytime. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.